I'm here with Max Kleiber, our new political reporter, Jordan Parker, and Liz Willis. We're here, as many of you know, because we're going to be filming a documentary. So we're here, we've been getting exclusive footage, we've seen the border, we've seen the Rio Grande, so it's been a really jam-packed trip so far. Now, Jordan, do you want to maybe just tell the viewers what you think so far and, you know, what we did today?
Sure, yeah. Well, my name is Jordan Parker. For those of you who don't know me, I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. So with some of these people here, today we saw a lot of our southern border, which has been incredible. We saw some fenced areas this morning, some unfenced areas this afternoon, as well as the largest land port of entry, the World Trade International Bridge just north of Laredo, which sees over 5 million semis come through every year. Quite impressive, and it's also one of the largest ports for apprehension of narcotics. So it's been an incredible day. Got to see a lot, talk to some great people, and I'll turn it back over to Bailee here.
Yeah, so we got to talk to, was he a CBP officer? Yeah, so we talked to someone who worked at the World Trade Bridge today, and he was really, really helpful in giving us some more insight on, you know, how things work down here. It's a huge international trade hub, which is pretty fascinating. We saw the river today, which was pretty cool. So we've gotten some really cool exclusive footage for you guys. Max, you want to weigh in on all the stuff we've gotten so far?
Sure. So we've gotten some cool shots of some of the buildings and some of the landmarks around here. Right behind us, off to the left, is a really cool little park here in San Augustine. It's a historic district. Behind the camera right now is the San Augustine de Laredo Church, founded in 1755. You guys will see some pretty cool images and pictures of that in the documentary, along with a park right on the river. We were earlier, if you guys saw on our Instagram live story, we were at the Laredo Community College taking videos and pictures over there. It's one of the only parts of Laredo, Texas with any unnatural border obstacle. So it's got a fence. There's no wall anywhere near Laredo. They rely heavily on the Rio Grande River, so we went up close there, and we've got some pretty cool footage of all of that.
Yeah, and I just want to thank you guys for tuning in. We really, really appreciate your support. You know, this trip was really, you know, has been a lot of fun, very productive so far, but we can't continue to do these things without your support. So thank you guys so much if you've donated so far. If you're interested in helping us with this project and donating, you can do that via PayPal, Patreon, rsbnetwork.com/donate, or the YouTube Super Chat at the bottom of your screen. Now, Liz, I'm sure the viewers are really excited you're back. So, you know, you want to say hi to them and tell them what you think so far?
Thank you, Bailee. It's great to be here. This is my first time really checking out the southern border in many, many years. So a lot has changed since I was a kid coming here to vacation with my family. Mexico in this area is now no longer I would want to vacation. However, in this specific area on this side of the southern border, I wanted to point out behind me, which we'll show you later, and there will be more in the documentary, but there's actually a hotel. So if y'all are at home and you want to Google something really quick, I would suggest looking into La Posada Hotel. So it's actually huge. And we are actually, so if we're standing this way, we're parallel to the entire large section of the Rio Grande River that is here at this specific border passing. So the entire back of this hotel overlooks the river. And the fun fact about this hotel is that it's the only 5-star hotel within this Laredo, Texas area, and it is rumored to be the place where the JFK shooter escaped to for a few days before he fled to Mexico. So that's because many, many years ago, a sketchy guy came in wearing a suit, they said, and this is just from a local source. He came in, he was really flustered, he was wearing a suit, and he rented a room. And I suppose it wasn't so often that they had, you know, Americans coming in and getting rooms. This is 96%, Bailee said, Hispanic American town. And this guy came in, had a room, didn't leave it for about 2 to 3 days, never even left the room. All of a sudden, he was just totally gone. They don't know when he checked out, but he was gone. And then they thought it was weird. About 15 years later, they were doing a renovation of this hotel. So they took up all the floorboards and found a long, was it a rifle, he said?
Yeah.
So it was a rifle, and they did ballistics examinations, and apparently it matches. So that was a fun story from one of the locals here. I haven't researched it or read about it, but that's called La Posada Hotel, and it's absolutely beautiful. It's stunning inside and outside. We pretended to be visitors and snuck a tour through it yesterday, so that's been great. It's just really good to be here. It's a lot of fun, and it's something I've noticed so far that's kind of what I'm taking home from this documentary is the beauty of this town here in Laredo. It is a border town, and it is so much more beautiful than I expected, and that's just on a year that doesn't have that many tourists. We spoke to a lot of locals, and they actually are in favor of building the wall. He said more or less he doesn't necessarily care. He's not going to say no, but he told us that if about anyone we asked, no one's going to say no, and that is 100% true so far. We'll go into more about that later with what we spoke to off the record from a agent at the World Bridge Center. But yeah, he said if they built the wall here, it would be good, it'd be fine. And it would just bring a lot of business to the restaurants, and they really want this to just be a booming town. They said 10 years ago there was a lot of crime from the cartels in Mexico, and it just kind of stopped everything, stopped all businesses, and now they were able to get business going a little bit, and they hope that in the next few years it'll really get bigger and bigger. And after seeing how beautiful it is and how good the food is here, I can see it just being a really nice tourist attraction to add to the United States. Anyone else?
Yeah, and I just want to give a quick shout out to Manning Luck for your $2 donation. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. I also want to thank Diego Luz Samstown for your $50 donation. You said, "Hi, ladies and gent. Long time no see." Thank you so much. We really appreciate that. Something I briefly want to mention as we're talking about our time here in Laredo is we really, these months leading up to the 2020 election, or really year or two, essentially, are really critical for this company. We are making sure that we have the right resources, that we can be on par and at the same level as the other mainstream networks. So we want to make sure we have those resources and tools. And with that being said, we obviously need your support to do that. So I just want to thank you guys again for donating. We really appreciate it. And we're really excited because this is the first time that we've kind of explored making a short film / documentary. So I think it'll be really cool. But something also that I wanted to touch on that Liz had mentioned is one of the coolest things I've seen with this town so far is there's such a strong marriage between the American culture and the Mexican culture, and it really makes this place so unique. And we've had incredible food here so far. We just went to this place that came highly recommended from several people that we've met here, and it was fantastic. It's just been a really, really awesome time so far. Yeah, why don't you touch on that?
Okay. I really don't even know how to say this with it sounding like newsworthy, but low-key, everyone in Laredo, Texas is so friendly. Me and Bailee were joking. We don't know if we're like, this is like they're trying to kidnap us or if they're just that nice, because they're like, hey, do you want to get in my car? I'll give you a tour around Mexico. And, you know, in a lot of places you would think of like Liam Neeson and Taken, the movie. But genuinely, everyone we've met is just like, how can we help you? Here's this number, call them. Do you like the food? You should go check out this place. Someone even gave our cameraman a quarter when they saw us standing on the street with our car so she could pay for our parking. And said, "Welcome to Laredo." So y'all, the potential here is just absolutely astounding. It's huge. The potential for it just to be a booming city, a booming economy. They make a lot of their money. Actually, the city of Laredo does make most of their money. I think he said $60 million a year based off just the World Trade Bridge. So the money that's coming in from the imports as well as the exports to and from Mexico. So all the potential is there for a great city. We just have to, protect it and make sure that more Americans aren't really scared to come to a border town. And I think the wall will give that sense of security to a lot of the people who are thinking but on the edge of coming to visit a border town that's close to Mexico. Have you noticed anything, Max, that surprised you so far with being here?
We have a dog on set right now. Gonna be a little bit harder to talk to the gorgeous dog down there, but so one quick question on here. Someone asked where Liz has been. Pretty much everywhere is the right answer to that question. She was in Brazil for a while. She did a little vacation in Italy and in Europe as well. So Liz has been having vacation, enjoying, taking some time off after that intense midterm season that we all had. And so we're very happy to have her back. But to answer Liz's question a second ago, something that really kind of surprised me about Laredo was not just like the peaceful marriage that Bailee put it of just the two cultures, but how peaceful it is in general. It is just very... despite the honky behind us, it has been very, very quaint. Everything's just been, you kind of do your thing, I'll do my thing, and it's just been, there's stuff happening. Jordan talked about how many trucks go through the World Trade Bridge, yet it just doesn't seem like it's that hustling. It doesn't seem like there's that much going on. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I was expecting the border town to be extremely active and extremely... It is weekend, but even yesterday was still pretty chill in general in the early afternoon. So, but yeah, I thought that was something of note.
And just to touch on that, I think a lot of that credit goes to Border Patrol and Customs and Border Patrol for keeping Laredo and Mexico safe on both sides, keeping people where they need to be, managing and monitoring the flow, to really do their best job at making sure Laredo stays safe and is still a great place to call home for so many of the residents here. And adding on to that, and what they've said previously, it's incredible to see the sense of pride that people here in Laredo have for their hometown and wanting to really build it, develop it, and wanting their businesses to prosper. We talked to a local yesterday who's starting to get his restaurant up and running, and he said that the stigma of illegal immigration and the risk that poses to outsiders has kind of deterred people from coming, and the tourism industry in Laredo hasn't been as big as they hope. So we're hoping with new border security, with this wall funding that we hope gets passed soon, that that can give a bigger sense of peace to outsiders in tourism, the tourism industry, for people wanting to come to Laredo and see all that it has to offer. Like they said, the food's been incredible. We went to a family-owned restaurant just before this. That same family has been running it for 23 years. Multiple generations of people have worked there, and they're just super friendly, welcoming, warm, and just hard workers that want to, show off their talents in the form of food. So it's been great to see so far.
So there was a question that was just asked in the chat, or not really a question, but a statement. I was hoping, Jordan, that you'd be able to kind of expound upon it, because you actually noted that before anyone else did. But when we were at Laredo Community College and we were kind of standing up on the fence, kind of looking through it, you noticed that there were sensors in there, and somebody in the chat says, we have sensors now at the border. Could you kind of talk to them a little bit more about what those sensors look like, how well that they function, and anything else that they might not know about those sensors?
Yeah, so we had the opportunity to go to one of the very small portions of the actual physical barrier in the form of fencing here in Texas. As it's been mentioned multiple times over, in the media and just on a national spectrum, that a lot of the border is not covered, and most of that falls in Texas and in the Rio Grande Valley. So actually this fencing in front of Laredo Community College and the residential area surrounding it was the small couple-mile stretch of physical border there. So between the fencing, which we were on the U.S. side of, there's a service road for what we assume was CBP to kind of monitor that with vehicles, and we couldn't get on that road. And that's just beyond that. There was a small wire running along the distance of the road that seemed to be some sort of proximity or motion activated sensors. Now, again, we can't confirm that since we weren't able to go over there. But it was interesting to see little I guess monitors or sensors dangling from this wire that could possibly be triggered if a large group of migrants were to come over and hit it repeatedly. Adding on that, at one section of the fence we saw this morning, there were some of the spikes or bars pried apart at the top of it. So obviously we don't know if that is for sure from an illegal crossing, but definitely something to take note of. And I'm sure has the residents around this area of the fencing and the students at Laredo Community College somewhat concerned. So hopefully this wall funding can go to fund not only physical barriers, which we all believe is very important, but also increase security, especially for places like the World International Trade Bridge today, where is one of the largest sectors where narcotics is apprehended, smuggled. Yeah. So technology like that to help our Border Patrol keep Americans safe and also keep Mexicans safe, I think is crucial.
And I also want to give a couple shout-outs. So thank you to Proud Patriot 28 for your $35 donation. You said, hope you bring the truth with your documentary. Hope every open border leftist gets triggered from it. Good luck and stay safe, Trump 2020. Thank you very much. Also, thank you to CNN for your $10 donation. You said you can trust us. Thank you, CNN. Yeah, I think it's important to note, too, surrounding 2/3 of the American-U.S.-Mexican border is some sort of barrier or some sort of wall, and the president's looking to strategically place additional barriers. So this is supplemented by drug-detecting technology, more border agents. So it's important to note that although he is requesting this $5.7 billion border security package, what'd you say? I'm just talking the overall number of 5.7. that it's all encompassing and it really incorporates different arenas of different things that will help ensure national security. So I think that's important to talk about too. But we've seen some really interesting things so far. What do you guys think was like the most noteworthy? Like, did you like seeing the river? Did you like seeing the like pedestrian bridge? Like, what stood out to you? Anyone?
Definitely, as we touched on, the World International Trade Bridge, to me, was the most impressive. One of the officials we talked to there said that's the largest point of entry for commercial goods on the southern border of the United States, which is incredible. They see over 6,000 semis come through there each and every day, and we can attest that while we were there, there's a huge backup along the bridge coming from Mexico into the U.S. He noted that the majority of these are fresh produce, avocados, flowers, goods that you probably find in your local grocery store, wherever you may be located. So it's cool to see the direct point of entry where much of the food we eat is coming through. So to me, that was quite astounding and amazing. Such a large operation, and so thank you to all the Customs and Border Protection that work there and at all the points of entry who regulate and go through all that food to make sure it's safe and to apprehend as many narcotics as possible, because obviously we don't want that getting into the streets of our country.
Liz, you have something to add?
Yeah, we talked about it earlier, but I think it's important enough to hit on again. Just those who are tuned in, it's something that's really stood out to me is if you are at home like I was, this is my first time at the southern border, you're watching the news or you're reading or you're just talking to anyone and you mention the southern border, the first thing you hear of is probably the word, if you're in support of it, that it's racist or it's unethical, immoral. A lot of those words are thrown around with it, and that is all you'd think towards Hispanics and Mexicans in general. So I assumed, and that's my problem, is that Mexico would be against the wall and Mexican Americans around here would also be against it, and they would also think that Trump was awful and racist and all those words that is just narrated by the mainstream media. However, being here, I have not met a single person yet, given I've met 5 people. But out of that, they have all been for it. They have mostly been indifferent because there are things about it they like and they support and they don't support. So they're not 100% gung-ho for this. But someone in particular that had a high status today, who I cannot name because it's off the record, but he discussed how he thinks the wall is a good idea. However, there are portions of it that don't necessarily need to be in place where the Rio Grande is really strong. It doesn't need to be a continuous barrier, a continuous wall. He said the budget, which is roughly $25 billion, that's where the main guesstimate is, and it's going to be starting in segments of $5.7 billion each. So it's most likely going to be $15 billion to $20 billion is the estimate for the total funding of the wall. So he said they could probably build it in about half of that if they really, and this is what Bailee has touched on a lot, is just strategic placement. And that's what, the supervisor mentioned earlier, is that there's just places it should be and places that you don't need it. So I think that's pretty important. But everyone's pretty much for it. They want it. They think the construction will bring a lot of jobs to these towns, as well as people that are going to eat at these restaurants, travel, feel safer to come here. And it's really cool. Everyone doesn't hate Trump as much as you would think that a border town would. So that's something I've learned so far. And how are the comments looking? Any good questions? Don't forget to ask us some questions. This is a Q&A. And I also want to thank everyone who's donated. So I just want to touch, we are here for those who are tuning in and wondering what we're doing. RSBN is here at the southern border, and we are making our first ever documentary. So we're not here for a rally or anything today, unfortunately. But this documentary is going to be super cool. We're trying to just show you the facts, like what's really going on at the southern border, because you can't get your facts or your information from the news. So we're doing this documentary, and if you would like to contribute, because this is just something totally different than anything we've ever done before, we're trying new ways to work as a successful business and to be able to go all the way through these rallies. Of course, the State of the Union is going to be Tuesday. Bailee, Max, and Jordan are all going to be helping produce that, anchor that, and it's going to be incredible, so stay tuned for that. There's also going to be CPAC coming up that RSBN will be attending, and hopefully some rallies, because we know President Trump will be running in 2020. And in order for RSBN to bring you the rallies like we love to do, we rely on donations. So please, if you feel like you can, please contribute to Right Side Broadcasting. You can do that by going to rsbnetwork.com/donate. Now that'll be through PayPal where you donate, so it's a tried, true, and trusted source. You can also donate right here on YouTube. That's the $ in the bottom right-hand corner of the Super Chat, and we'll be able to give you a shout-out while we're live right now. So if you have any questions or you want to donate, you can do that a couple of ways. You can check out Right Side Broadcasting on Patreon as well. Handing the mic off now.
Thank you, Liz. So also just wanted to mention this before we kind of look for some questions that you guys might have sent over the past minute or two. I wanted to kind of give a shout out to the Remembrance Project. If you guys are interested in this issue and this crisis with the southern border, especially when it comes down to illegal immigrants committing crimes, and even in the most heinous cases, murdering people or raping people, please go to the Remembrance Project. They do an incredible job cataloging those stories and sharing those stories for you guys across the border. They've had some influence in Washington, D.C. recently. They worked with the campaign a little bit in San Diego a couple years back. So please reach out to them, look into their website. They've been very helpful and beneficial for us today, and we're very thankful for that. And so please, if you guys are interested in hearing about some people's stories that have been deeply impacted by this crisis, make sure you check out theremembranceproject.org.
Also, I want to give a shout out to Ernie Olivares for your $10 donation. Thank you very much. He said, it's pedal to the metal time. Trump's speech is going to be basically comprised of a number of his tweets. He's going to stand at that podium in the House of Representatives and simply explain their agenda. Thank you very much for that donation. Also, we did get a question, so I figured I'll read it, give my response, then we can all kind of weigh in and see what we think. So Andrew Martineau, I don't know if I butchered that. I'm sorry if I did. You said, is the Rio Grande River a deterrent for border crossers? I would say yes, to an extent. It probably helps. It probably slows things down, but I don't think it replaces the need for specific barriers, more technology, more border agents. Like Jordan was saying, we went to the Laredo Community College earlier today, which is the only area that we're aware of in Laredo that has any sort of fencing. And there was a fence with some sort of security road behind it and sensors like he had touched on. The river was behind that. So I do think that it helps to an extent, but I don't think it replaces the need for things like more agents, drug detecting technology, and a physical barrier. Max, what do you think?
Yeah, so I think of the four of us, I got the closest to the river. In fact, there was a moment where I couldn't help myself and actually kind of dipped my hand in a little bit. So I was in the Rio Grande River, technically. Not really. It wasn't too bad.
The temperature's not a deterrent.
No, it wasn't. I think the only deterrent that I would actually really even note, and it's not much of one, is the currents seem to be strong enough in that area to maybe say, okay, even if I swim across, I don't know if I'll actually end up in a place where I can climb up. I obviously didn't test it, which would have been very interesting to see how that would have gone. But, yeah, the current was a little bit stronger. I don't know. But I think Bailee kind of hit the nail right on the head there. I think it's some sort of deterrent, but it's not going to be a 100% deterrent. Oh, there's a river there. I'm not going to try. I think some people do try, but I think that there needs to be some more actual obstacles put in place.
And touching on that, we were able to go, as you mentioned, to a part of the river today. You guys will see more shots of that, some aerial shots, as well as some still shots in the documentary in the coming weeks, which was a great opportunity today to show you a few different perspectives. But in the place we were, like Max said, there was a current, but it wasn't strong. There weren't rapids. There weren't, it wasn't a treacherous part of the river, I would say. Any talented swimmer or anyone with a floater, inner tube, or some sort of flotation device would probably be able to paddle across, especially at night or at times when the border is not being monitored. When we were at the park, we did see 2 or 3 police cars circling through, possibly monitoring to see if any activity coming across, but unfortunately we weren't able to speak to them and they weren't able to comment on the issue. But for experienced swimmers, they will be able to get across more than likely, but for older migrants, younger kids, it definitely is a risk to cross, and a risk that sadly people are taking and not winning. So,
thank you, Jordan. One of the comments I had from the supervisor I mentioned earlier today, and this kind of stood out to me because it was the first comment I had heard about it, but when I mentioned a wall coming to Laredo in specifics, specifically Laredo, he seemed almost offended and said, are you trying to say by building a wall here, you're saying that our agents are not doing a good job? And I don't think that's true at all. I think that it would be helping them. Everybody wants a little assistance. So I just think the wall would be assisting them in decreasing some of the illegal activity, because we know they're not getting all of the immigrants, obviously. And he also mentioned that the river is enough. He said, and this is the man who spoke about having different sections to the wall. so that they can be in certain places, and that we have the river here in Laredo. So his comment was that there's no need for a wall in this area specifically because of the river. Now, as far as that's his opinion. So he thinks the river is enough of a deterrent. My opinion, unless I'm seeing something totally wrong, and I suppose I really need to learn more of the exact immigration process that most immigrants in this location are taking, it looks way too easy. My boyfriend's an Olympic swimmer. Most of y'all know that. I'm not an Olympic swimmer. I don't think it would take any type of swimming skills besides being able to stay above water to get over it. It's not very far. I don't think the current was strong. I think it's very normal. If you can hang out at a beach on a somewhat windy day, then you can get over that river. You might end up a little bit farther south than where you started, but either way you're going to get over. So I was thinking, if someone, the only problem is you would be soaking wet. So, but there's grass and different types of plants and bush that's about this high in most of those locations. So say you organized, because we all know it's just, there's organizations that help people get over. Say I said, okay, hey friend, will you leave a bag of clothes right here in these coordinates, and like a hairbrush. You could literally just get out of the river, hide in those weeds in the bushes, put on new clothes, and with the Mexican sun your hair would be dry in an hour. Me and Bailee and all of us actually walked up the river bank, I suppose, and no one said anything. Our hair is dark, and we could have been anyone, and it just seemed really easy to me as long as you had a dry pair of clothes. And there must be something I'm missing, I'll say that. Otherwise, it's a little ridiculously easy, and my answer is no. The river does not seem like a deterrent. I could have gotten across, and for enough of a donation, I will try.
And to add on to that, a lot of the portions of the border we saw today, if they're not opening up to land, they're opening up to residential communities, and in a lot of cases parks and children's parks. So much of this unprotected border is bordering an area where families and children are out playing on a daily basis, and families' homes are right beyond that, not in a gated community. So it'd be very easy for illegal migrants coming across to disappear into these neighborhoods, and potentially be very hard for law enforcement to track down. So that's another risk possibility. Also, if you guys have any questions for us, we're monitoring the YouTube and Twitter live stream chats. So if you have any specific questions on what we saw and if there's anything you'd like us to cover specifically, be sure to drop them down below, and we will do our best to answer them as they come in. Bailee or Max, any thoughts?
Also, I just want to give a quick shout out. We have a new member. Welcome to Appy Rider F350. Thank you for joining. We're really excited to have you guys. If you're just tuning in, we are here at the southern border in Laredo, Texas. Someone asked if we're on the Laredo or Nuevo Laredo side. We're on the Laredo side, so we're on the American side of the border. But it's been a very incredible trip so far. It's a very quaint area. I think we all kind of had our different and sometimes similar preconceived notions of what a border town would be like. I actually read this really interesting article before getting here, and it basically painted this picture of these border towns are becoming they're painted in a way that there's a sharp contrast between the American side and the Mexican side, and essentially it's said that dichotomy is disappearing. Like, you really cannot tell which side you're on if you were just walking around here. Most people do speak Spanish. A lot of people have spoken to me and Liz in Spanish, just assuming that, because we're here, we, might be, working here for the day and then going back home later to the Mexican side of the border, whatever that may be. So I think that's been interesting too, is that, this culture here really is no different from the Mexican side of the border. So, Max, any thoughts?
I think you bring up a great point that there's not a sharp contrast between the two. Even we haven't actually crossed the border yet, but even just kind of looking over on the other side, it doesn't seem to be too different. The people seem to be the same, and they kind of treat it like it is their regular town as well, not like you've just crossed a border. So other than a really rough commute, I think it seems like it's pretty much one place.
I'd like to make a comment. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And I do want to, we've mentioned it a few times, and we always get these comments, so we're going to try to address it again. The reason we are looking at our phones, we are actually reading all of your comments because this is a Q&A, meaning question and answer. So we are looking for your questions. So we are reading all of the comments. He is checking Periscope. The rest of us are on the YouTube chat because it tends to get the most comments and it goes by really fast. So we're not on Twitter or being the teenagers you think we look like. We are just trying to see what you guys have, what questions you have about the southern border. We know it's a hot topic in the news all over the United States and as well as the world. You guys, I just got back from Brazil, and I cannot tell you how many people, when they found out I was from America, stopped and asked me about the wall with Mexico and whether or not I was for it. It's a pretty touchy situation, even in different countries all over the world right now. So we thought, heck, if everyone else has so many questions, we might as well just go there, film it for you, and get you guys some answers. So that is why we are here. We are reading questions, and we'd love to answer them if you guys have any. So right now we are in Laredo, Texas at the southern border. We are Right Side Broadcasting Network, and we guys want to show you. We want to be real news and show you guys what exactly is going on. This isn't being edited right now. We are completely live. Anything you see behind us is just Laredo, Texas right now. The border is
literally like 200 yards.
Yeah, you guys... Okay, so if you look really far, I don't think you're going to be able to see it, but if you see a point, like through this, down this street, you go straight, you can see a pointed building in the very back. So that's customs. Pretty sure, like 99% sure. That's the bridge.
That's one of the main pedestrian bridges. One of the officials we spoke to today said the city of Laredo operates and supports or employs 4 bridges here. There's the World Trade International Bridge that we went to today, as I mentioned, is the largest point of entry for commercial goods in the U.S. The pedestrian bridge, where a lot of day workers come over, as well as the road bridge, and then a train bridge for large amounts of trains to go over. One comment I wanted to touch on from Gina Piana, she said, "It's good that you guys are there. Most just believe what they hear," and that is so true. So thank you for pointing that out. A lot of times people who might not have the opportunity to come down to the border are easily persuaded by what they see on television. So we thought it was a great idea to come down here, show you guys what's actually going on, report live, obviously, from the border town, and to just give you a different perspective that some may not provide. And that's thanks to your guys' donations. I was able to come on board recently because of your generosity, so we just really want to thank you guys for that, and we hope you continue to support us as we go into the what is shaping up to be a crazy 2020 presidential cycle.
We have another...
Question. Do local folks have any concerns about cartel violence?
So that's kind of interesting. We talked to someone yesterday who's a local and actually in the process of opening a restaurant down the street. And he had mentioned that quite a few years ago there was a concern about growing cartel violence, but that's really not the case anymore. I think it really comes down to in any type of city you're going to have, bad places somewhere. But he said overall the crime really is not how it's portrayed in the media, so that's pretty interesting as well. Also, where did I stand? What'd you say? Sorry, guys. We're just looking at your questions right now. Why aren't you? Oh, yeah. So we're just doing a quick Q&A to connect with you guys. But the real cool exclusive footage and the interviews that you're going to see will actually be later on when we edit the documentary. So this is just kind of a quick glance at what we're doing so we can keep you guys in the loop. I also wanted to give a quick shout out while I'm thinking about it. 9 Fathoms donated $2 and put a ton of hearts. Thank you. We really appreciate it. Like we've touched on a couple of times, really gearing up for 2020. This is going to be a crazy election cycle. So definitely just know that we appreciate your generosity and your donations, and we can't do it without you guys. So thank you very much.
Have we been to the border, the Mexican side yet?
No, we have not.
In the morning.
Yeah, Liz and I are planning on walking over. So there's 5 ports of entry here. Most of them are vehicular, and some are commercial, some are not. And then there's a pedestrian bridge as well, so you can walk across the border. We will be walking tomorrow. We won't be going through via car, so we're really excited about that. Someone said how much wall is built. If I remember correctly, I believe it's 2/3 of the American border has some sort of barrier on it, whether that be a wall, a fence, some sort of barrier. So it's really important to know that this is nothing new. The Democrats like to come out and say, this is immoral, this is whatever, but they voted for it in the past, and that's why there's hundreds of miles that have been built through the Obama and Bush administration. So I think that's kind of important to note that, this is nothing new. It just needs to be strategically placed. So any thoughts, guys?
Yeah, I actually had a good question. There was a question just a second ago. I don't remember the user, but there was a question about if we have seen any military presence here. So nothing that you would assume when you hear military presence. There was a moment where we did see an armed army personnel. I don't know his position. I don't know his occupation within, but he was wearing an army uniform. He was walking around the border station, border entry. But other than that, there has been no military presence whatsoever. I haven't seen any military vehicles. I haven't seen any other personnel. He was just in uniform, and that was pretty much it. So nothing out of the ordinary when it comes down to that. It seems like this town is under a business-as-usual kind of vibe.
One more question from Sandy D77. She said, did you get to talk to neighboring residents? We have had the great opportunity to talk to a few locals here, and we're going to continue to do that for the rest of the time that we're here. But most people are, well, as we mentioned earlier, extremely friendly, extremely warm and welcoming. And one of the people we talked to yesterday said, you'll be hard-pressed to find a local resident of Laredo here that doesn't want the wall. Border security, border protection only helps their businesses and increases the perception of Laredo. So obviously everyone wants the economy to thrive here and tourism to be a bigger industry than it is. So answering your question, yes, we have been able to talk to locals, and we hope to continue to do more of that tomorrow.
I have another question, too.
Delaney said hi. Hi, Delaney.
So I actually have another question, and it's kind of a nice little preview to Tuesday night. State of the Union address by President Trump at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 Central. For you guys who will have coverage for that. But someone asked, State of the Union, how do you think it'll go? Would you agree that the State of the Union is President Trump's golden opportunity to simply explain the options we have going forward as a country? I think it's a great opportunity for him to speak directly to the people. Obviously, that was one of the reasons behind Nancy Pelosi's call to end his invitation during the government shutdown. She did not want him to speak directly to the people and have a stage uninterrupted, unimpeded by anybody else for an hour and a half in front of all the lawmakers in the country, all the federal lawmakers in the country. So I think right now, I think this is his best opportunity to do that. I think that an hour and a half to really expound upon why border security is so important to him, why it's so important to the country and to the people who live in these states in Texas and New Mexico, Arizona, California, and how that affects all the other states in the union as well. I think it's a great opportunity for him. I hope he capitalizes on it. I don't know if I think that, knowing Stephen Miller, his speechwriter, I think it'll be pretty testimonial driven. I'm going to assume that there's going to be some invites of some families who've been affected by, kind of like when he did that with MS-13, family members who had their family member victimized by them. And so I think that'll be a great opportunity for him. And it's pretty clear to everyone, I think, that he's going to really use it. And I think it's his best opportunity.
Yeah, we had this debate earlier. I said he may or may not declare a national emergency. Max is very much against that, or thinks that's not a great idea time-wise, right? Is that what you said?
I think that using the State of the Union to do it is probably poor timing. I don't know if that's the right way to do it. You're already going to have millions of people listening. I think this is the time to make the argument for why you need it. President Trump even said, I believe it was today, it could have been yesterday, that the wall will get built faster if they go through what he called proper channels through legislation. But I think that for a national emergency speech, for a call to declare the national emergency, that he can get a large audience just for that. So to kind of ruin his audience that he'll already have by having it in the State of the Union, I think doesn't seem like the brightest move. Use this hour and a half of constant talking and use this million-person platform as a way to make the argument, not a way to make the decision.
I just think the Democrats have been manipulating time since December 22nd, so where do you draw the line? I think he's going to have to do it at some point if they don't come to some sort of agreement. So it's just kind of a matter of when it's going to happen. I don't know, Jordan, what do you think? Or you have a question?
Yeah, a couple questions. One, Laura Butler, thank you for your comment. Thank you for being here. We actually did go to the border today. We went in multiple spots. We visited yesterday as well. You will see that in the coming documentary. We have aerial views as well as on-land views, and our own Max actually dipped his hand in the river. So we did see the border, fenced and unfenced parts of it. So be on the lookout for that. That is coming soon. We might be able to do a live tomorrow from the border, but you'll have to stay tuned and see what we do with that. Kay Smithy, Max answered earlier a little bit of the question of did we see any military presence. No big military presence here. I know Trump sent 3,000 more troops down to the border recently. We did see an armed military member actually at the pedestrian bridge yesterday, but outside of that, nothing out of the ordinary other than your regular CBP patrol. We did see a helicopter today, a few boats parked, and vehicles patrolling at areas near the border. Like we mentioned, we're only about 100 yards from there, so we are right in the heart of Laredo and right, on the footsteps of the southern border. So, anyone else?
Yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. I also want to give a shout out to Carl Peterson for your $10 donation. You said RSBN do the hokey pokey at the border. We'll look into it. Yeah, thank you very much for your support. You guys are really awesome. We've, had a really incredible time so far, but we still have a lot of work to do. So we'll probably wrap it soon. If you guys have any more questions that you want answered, put those in the chat now. Quite a few people have been asking if we've seen Ruth. She's not anywhere in sight to my knowledge, but feel free to refute that. But yeah, so if you guys have any last minute questions, time to put those in the chat. Anyone else have any thoughts?
So we're wrapping this up right now. If you have any last minute questions, please let us know. Once again, they are on their phones looking for questions. Once again, we are Right Side Broadcasting Network. We are here in Laredo, Texas. We are filming our first ever documentary, and it is going to be on the U.S.-Mexican border. As you know, there's a southern border crisis going on right now all through the United States. Everyone's worried about it. So we came down here to figure out what's really going on, and we're going to make that documentary and bring it right to you. The real truth about what's going on down here, what this wall is doing, and the immigration crisis as well. We're really excited to finish those up. Now, if there's any questions you want answered specifically in this documentary, let us know. You can DM us on any of our social media platforms. You can find us on Instagram, RSBN TV, as well as Twitter, RSB Network. We're really active on both of those, so if you have questions, DM us on that. We are going to be doing this again tomorrow at the exact same time, so that's 5:30 Eastern, correct? 5:30 Eastern? There's a problem with that.
To be determined.
To be determined on that, but we'll be doing this live thing again. It's roughly 30 minutes today and tomorrow. Now this, we're just going live to be able to talk to you for a few minutes during our documentary process. So don't think that we're just here doing this. We're here to do a documentary. And if you're interested in donating to Right Side Broadcasting because you want real news, you want to see what's truly going on in your country and this world, you can donate by going to rsbnetwork.com/donate. That'll direct you to the PayPal source where you can donate that way. You can also donate via YouTube in the Super Chat. So click that $sign in the bottom right hand corner and you'll be prompted to enter absolutely any amount you want, and it all goes towards Right Side Broadcasting and the future of this company. We're really excited for many things to come, including the president's speech next week on Tuesday, as well as rallies that are sure to be coming up for the 2020 election, and CPAC, which is the Conservative Political Action Conference, and that'll be at the end of February. So Right Side will be at all of these things, and it's your donations that make this possible. Thank you for being with us today, and we will see you soon. Any last comments?
One more comment. For those of you asking for pictures of the border, be sure to stay tuned to our Twitter and Instagram, and we might be able to provide you guys a sneak peek picture or short video showing the crossings as well as the unfenced portion.
Yeah,
so
they're already up on Instagram.
Yeah, so stay
We'll see
tuned.
more, too.
Stay tuned for a little bit more of that tonight and get a little sneak preview of our documentary coming soon.
Definitely.
Anything else, guys?
Yeah, thank you guys again for tuning in, donating. Like we said, we'll be here same time, or actually timing to be determined. Not sure what time yet, but be sure to tune in tomorrow so you can get an inside look at what we've been doing and what we're up to, and just to see kind of where the documentary is headed. So thank you guys for tuning in. Max, any last minute thoughts?
Yeah, thank you guys for your support. We really appreciate it. We have had a great time here the past day and a half or so, and we really appreciate all the support that you guys give us, because that's the only way this is possible. Also, if you're interested in this topic and you want to have a better understanding of really some people who've been truly affected by this crisis, directly impacted, make sure to check out the remembranceproject.org for more of the stories on that, and just kind of familiarize yourself with some facts, figures, and even some testimonials, because they'll probably be referenced in the speech on Tuesday night, so you can be better prepared for that. We will see you guys tomorrow afternoon here from Laredo.